It's that time-honored tradition here at Golden Days. We evaluate who on the Golden State Warriors and the NBA. I definitely will provide some comparisons to provide better perspective, but it's an analysis of which lineups are most successful, which lineups are least successful. And I also throw some wrinkles in there, like which duos on the Golden State Warriors are most and least successful, which individuals, which is the most subjective way of looking at net rating this early in the season. But nonetheless, we'll take a look at the net rating figures for each individual player. We'll take a look at how the Warriors as a team are doing offensively and defensively, relatively speaking, compared to the NBA. That's what we're doing today. We're 11 games in. The Golden State Warriors are 9-2 at the top of the Western Conference. Again, 11 games in. We're starting to get a sample size that represents reality. Let's see how the Warriors are doing lineup-wise. It's a Thursday night live edition of Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go!
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Hey there. Woo! Welcome to the Golden Days. I am your host, Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at DogWild, over on Twitter at Surf Journalist, the programs and all social media platforms at Golden Days Pod. Today's episode, like every episode, brought to you by Bet Online. And stay tuned, folks. We're starting to make some progress. We're going to start having some additional sponsors. And big picture, that's going to matter for the audience because the more sponsors we get, the more revenue we're making. And we can improve not just the quality of this show, but start giving back. I want to have contests. I want to have prizes. I want to hook people up with some free swag and all that stuff hopefully coming very soon. But for now, the one and only Bet Online is your sponsor, and we are proud and ecstatic to have them as a sponsor. They are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting, from the earliest odds to in-game live betting. Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA, and so much more. And yes, they're taking action on the Mike Tyson fight, which is happening tomorrow. I hope Tyson, I would, I don't mean to make this sound as dark as it's going to sound, but I'm going to say it anyways. If we witness someone's life taken tomorrow night, courtesy of the fist of Mike Tyson, I won't hate that. I want to see it happen. We're not going to see someone actually die, but I am ecstatic to watch Mike Tyson, despite the fact he's pushing 60, throw those mean-ass fists, and hopefully it's going to clobber an individual whose entire name and success is built on being a YouTuber. Kick his ass, Mike Tyson, and head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online. The game starts here. And again, welcome to the program. It's a Thursday night. Yes, Cool Breeze bringing up in the chat that DeAnthony Melton has a sprained ACL. This is true. It was confirmed by the Golden State Warriors. They announced it via their PR department that Melton will miss at least the next game. That is all we know so far. But look, the good news is this is where strength in numbers, the adage, which rings incredibly true, kicks in. Yeah, there's no panic buttons pressed when one individual is hurt. Stephen Curry was hurt earlier this year, easily the Warriors' best player, and they were fine. I'm not saying they're going to be fine big picture if Stephen Curry's out for an extended period, but the point is, if DeAnthony Melton is hurt, who are you going to start in his place? I don't know. You could start Moses Moody. You could start GP2. You could start Brandon Pajemski. You could start Lindy Waters. You could start Buddy Hield. They've got options. To the best of my knowledge, at this time. We're recording this Thursday night. It's now 6:08 p.m. I don't know who the starter is going to be. The good news is it doesn't matter because they have depth. And in most cases, who they start with is not who they're finishing with. Now, granted, the loss of DeAnthony Melton hurts because, as you're going to learn on this program, he makes a positive difference on this team. So we shall find out. And Alan Eliezer, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for following me. Yeah, thanks. He mentioning in the chat that you're following me on Instagram. My handle there, the same as my handle on Threads, because it's the same company, at Dog Wild. It's a super easy handle. I hope you can find it. Chef A in the chat, who wrote that they're stoked to be joining the program live, is writing that Steve Kerr has shifted the paradigm. Maybe all teams will try to follow his examples of wholesale line changes. Like hockey, we're lucky we have such a deep team. Excuse me. People have very short memories. And the reason why I say that, Chef A, is because this is not the first time that the Warriors are doing this or Steve Kerr is doing this. I don't know why people have forgotten the 14-15 team or even the more recent incarnation of strength in numbers, the 21-22 team, the two versions that won championships. Those teams were also 13 deep. Names like Juan Toscano Anderson and Gary Payton II, like Damian Lee, those were end of the bench pieces that were finding minutes. Same for the 14-15 version. When you think of names like Leandro Barbosa, Maurice Spates, those were end of the bench pieces that were still getting minutes. This is nothing new for Steve Kerr. I know he likes to repeat the same line, which is that he wants like a 7, 8, maybe 9-man rotation ultimately. But sorry, I heard like a weird sound from my kitchen area, which is not normal. Oh, it's my dog. It's Bubba making that noise. All right. Anyways, sorry for the distraction, though. The point is, the Warriors have been doing this for a while, and it is a clear-cut formula for success for them. Stephen Curry thrives when he's got these deep teams. And now, in terms of whether this is a model for the rest of the NBA, who knows? But if the NBA doesn't expand soon, every team's going to be deep because the sport's never been more popular. There's never been more talent playing and participating in the sport. So what you see with the Warriors, yeah, maybe it will be a thing everywhere because of how much talent is in the NBA right now. You have folks like Lonnie Walker the fourth, who got cut by the Celtics largely due to finances, who aren't even playing in the NBA right now, and that's a talented dude. The point is, I don't know. I don't think this is anything new, Chef A, but I love seeing it. It's good that the Warriors remembered what was the secret sauce, the winning formula for putting together title teams, and that is depth. So stoked on that front. And going back to DeAnthony Melton again, don't be concerned long term about his injury. I remember vividly when that injury occurred in the game. If you were watching that closely, I'm sure you do too. This happened in the Warriors-Mavericks game. Melton sprained the knee, but finished the game. And like a lot of sprains, as is typically the fashion, if you experience a sprain, whether it's your knee, whether it's your ankle, could be a thumb even, right? I mean, I jammed like a million fingers playing basketball. It gets worse as time progresses, and that's likely what happened with Melton. He sprained it during the game. It didn't affect him severely because as you witnessed, he finished. He played the entirety of it. And then most likely, even though he was trying to ice the thing, he woke up the next day, yesterday, and it probably swelled up. It probably got stiff. But all indications are this is not a major injury. And so don't be panicking, folks. It's hopefully going to be just a short-term thing where he's sitting out. Knee sprains are night and day different from any kind of tear. And that's not being reported. So I am not concerned. Ren Kunko in the chat, if I pronounced that correctly, saying is a sprained ankle season ending. DeAnthony Melton sprained his knee, and no, it is not season ending. Like I said a moment ago, Warriors PR announced he's out for one game, and we don't know beyond that what the damage is, but I'm not panicking. And again, this team is so deep, it don't matter. So, but the purpose of today's show is to evaluate who on this team so far, based on the statistic we know as net rating, which basically calculates a player and multiple players' impact on the floor in terms of whether or not that individual is helping the team outscore the opponent or if they're not contributing and when they're on the floor, the team is losing. That is what net rating captures. It is objective when you're monitoring 5-man lineups because net rating is telling you exactly what the 5 individuals on a court together, what they're doing in terms of productivity. Now, when you start getting net rating statistics for individuals or duos, which I'm also going to do on today's show, keep in mind that data is very subjective because the net rating for one person is out of 5 on the court. So if one player, for example, I'll reveal right now, Moses Moody, shockingly, when I did this research, has the lowest net rating on the Golden State Warriors. And I did not expect that. He still has a winning net rating, which is the good news. Like the team is not suffering when he's playing, but he has the lowest net rating out of all 14 players on the Golden State Warriors. And so initially, you might get the impression from hearing that, sorry to be redundant, that Moses Moody is hurting the team because his net rating is lowest. But we're only 11 games in, and net rating for an individual is incredibly subjective. It could very easily just be that Moody is routinely out there playing with 4 other players that is not conducive to team success, and it may have very little to do with Moses Moody. But when it comes to the 5-man lineups, now you're objective. Now the net rating for a 5-man group, that is a factual statement. Those 5 people, when you factor in net rating, tells you exactly what those 5, how they're impacting the game, whether it's a winning product, whether it's a losing product. But I also collected individuals and duos just to have some fun because you can kind of get a little idea as to what is going on with certain individuals and players. I also calculated certain net rating statistics for other lineups around the NBA so we can get a good perspective on where the Warriors are standing compared to everyone else. Apologies for the H2O. All right, so here we go. Here are the net ratings. There will be graphics associated with the 5-man lineups. I did not create graphics for the duos and for the individuals. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize that you just have to look at me while I read these numbers. If you're on the podcast, none of this makes any difference. And then for the 5-man lineups and for the Golden State Warriors team stats, I will have visuals accompanying the information. So first and foremost, I want to start off with individuals. Let's start there because it's the most subjective. It means the least of everything I'm going to read to you today. But, you know, you start to get some picture, some idea of how certain people are doing here. The Golden State Warriors net rating leaders individually this season, number 1 is Stephen Curry. No surprise there. He was number 2 last year behind Brandon Pajemski. That may be a little surprising. This year, he is number 1 with a plus 83. Now, in case you're asking yourself, what does that mean? When Stephen Curry plays this season and he's on the court, whoever he's on the court with, they're outscoring the opposition by 83 points. Meaning, when Stephen Curry's on the floor, they're kicking some major ass. Number 2 may surprise you a little bit, largely because the last 2 games, his output's been bad, borderline awful, borderline horrific. But yet, the fact that he's number 2 on this list goes to show just how much of an impact he still has had over the entire season, what his body of work is. And I'm referring to Brandon Pajemski, who despite going minus 19 last game, I think he went minus 21 the game before that. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere in that range. I'm sorry for never memorizing what he did 2 games ago. But the point is, the last 2 games have been awful for Brandon Pajemski. Yet despite that, he is still a plus 78. And let's hope whatever has been going on with Pajemski, interesting year for him, the broken nose, the mask that he hates, and the last 2 games, not the norm for Brandon Pajemski with his struggles. Yet despite that, on the season, he is still a plus 78, second on the Golden State Warriors in terms of net rating. Number 3, Draymond Green. No surprise there, a plus 68. Number 4, Buddy Hield, one of the new members of the Golden State Warriors, Splash Buddy, plus 54. Number 5 on the list will probably surprise you because it's a player that we oftentimes don't see. And what this means is that in the limited times he has played, he has been delivering, or at least helping his teammates deliver. And that's Lindy Waters III, who is 5th on the Warriors in net rating with a plus 53. Side note, I'm going to post all this data on Threads at Dog Wild. I likely will not post this on Twitter because of character limits. It's one of the perks of Threads. I don't have to pay extra to get way more character limits, way more duration on the videos I upload. And sorry, but I am not giving Elon Musk a penny of my hard-earned money. So I will post all this data on Thread soon. Number 5 on the list, Lindy Waters with a plus 53. Number 6 probably represents the biggest turnaround on this list from a year ago, and that is Andrew Wiggins. Last year, he finished the season a minus 58. I think he was dead last on the team last year. Him and Klay Thompson were terrible. I don't know how to spin that. Minus 58, meaning when Andrew Wiggins last year was on the court, the Warriors were outscored by 58 points. This year, a nearly 100-point swing. He is plus 47, good for 6th on the team in net rating. So he's doing okay, is what I'm trying to say. The Andrew Wiggins of 2022, the evidence is starting to support that we're going to see that we are seeing that version of him for the most part. The offense, not the same, not as consistent, but defensively, aggressively, in terms of just being a force of nature out there, the 2022 Wiggins, who is borderline unstoppable, is close to back, if not fully back. And again, a plus 47 for net rating statistics with Andrew Wiggins, good for 6th on the team. 7th is Kevon Looney, who was not thriving in this stat last year. I think he did okay. But this year, he's 7th on the Warriors, a plus 43. Number 8. Is that right? Are we at 8 already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, number 8 on the Warriors in terms of net rating is Jonathan Kuminga, plus 41. And the fact that we're now 8th on this list, and I'm still giving you numbers this high, is a testament to just how dominating the Golden State Warriors have been this year. Number 9, Trayce Jackson-Davis, a plus 38. Number 10, Gary Payton II, a plus 31. Number 11, D'Anthony Melton, plus 27. Number 12, Kyle Anderson, plus 23. Number 13, Guy Santos, who we've only seen in garbage time. And this goes to show that even in garbage time, this team's kicking ass. Guy Santos, a plus 18. And then Moses Moody is 14th on the Warriors currently in that rating with a plus 6. And this is where, again, 11 games into a season, individually, there's a long ways to go in the year. And in a lot of ways, this does not represent reality because, at least from what I've seen, and statistically, individually, besides net rating, Moses Moody's having a solid year, but he's only a plus 6. Now, the good news, again, when I was reading this data last year, we had some players in the negatives, and we had 2 key players, Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, who were way down in the negatives. They were like in the minus 80, minus 90. I think Klay or Wiggins, I forgot who it was. One of them was like in the minus 120, 140 range for net rating last year. So the turnaround for Wiggins is massively huge. And the Moses Moody stat, again, even though he's 14th, it's still a positive. That's the good news, meaning the Warriors are still outscoring the opposition when Moses Moody is on the floor by 6 points. But I don't think him being last represents his overall stat. Chef A in the chat saying, is Andrew Wiggins a most improved player candidate? Yeah, I mean that's an argument you're going to have to make to the national writers who get a vote on that. But so far, yes, the Warriors have a few players who might be in consideration for that MIP award. It's not just Wiggins. Buddy Hield could be in contention for that. If Kuminga continues improving and by the end of the season is averaging 20-plus points a game, you could probably include him in that discussion. But yes, Chef A, I'm no disagreement here right now. If you think Andrew Wiggins deserves most improved player, I'm totally with you. The only reason why I don't think he's a candidate at this point is because statistically, he's not delivering. Andrew Wiggins, let me pull up his stats real fast, just so you can get an idea as to what I'm talking about in terms of Wiggins. Again, having a solid, fantastic start to the year, but his stats aren't necessarily backing that up. And what I mean by that is Andrew Wiggins in 2022 where he was selected to an All-Star game. He was averaging better than 17 points a game that season. This year, he was averaging 14.7. He's fourth on the team in scoring, actually tied for third with Jonathan Kuminga. So the numbers are down a little bit. And Andrew Wiggins, his three-point shooting this year, currently at 38.1%, which is not bad, actually. That's a good number. But for most improved player, they're usually looking for individuals that are putting up 20 plus a game. So that's the only reason why I don't know if he's a serious contender for most improved player, but I would not hate on it. Ren Kuno in the chat saying that Steve Kerr should try Lindy Waters in the starting lineup tomorrow. I would not hate that either. I don't think he would hurt the team, and he would probably be a positive. He can play defense. He spaces the floor. He's the full package, man. I mean, the only thing I don't see Lindy Waters doing is playing like a point guard, but you don't need that from him. So it's fine. Ren Kuno adding that Pajemski and Moses Moody don't work. Pajemski, yeah, he's had a bad 2 games, but and Moody, again, the net rating I don't think reflects how he's played. Remember, Moses Moody started quite a few games this year and wasn't a detriment to the team. So I don't know if like Pajemski and Moody would hurt the team if they started, but but I would not mind Lindy Waters starting. Totally with you there. Greg Gordon saying, yeah, the Moses Moody is passing the eye test. Gamer F2P, no news yet on Kyle Anderson. You're asking about his status. He was out 2 days ago with a sprained neck. I didn't really get any details on that. It could have been something as simple as just waking up with one of those kinks, and those do hurt very bad. So if that's what it was, I could understand the team telling Kyle, take it easy, take a night off. We shall see. Pinoy Reformat, we're live. I'm reading your content right now. So anyways, those are all your individual net rating stats. I just want to make sure, Julian Bashir saying, if you want to improve the quality of the show, never have Kruger on again. Look, Larry Kruger is, besides the fact that and we go way back. I mean, we've been through wars together, almost literally in this media game, if you knew half the stories, but he knows what he's talking about. I know he had that 38 game prediction, the 38 win prediction for the Warriors, which already is looking awful. He's a good dude, and he knows what he's talking about for the most part. My point is, just don't let Larry Kruger detract you. It's once a week. I know we've had a couple runs lately because the 49ers had a bye week, so he had a lot more time on his hands. It's once a week. It's every Tuesday. If he's that much of a turnoff to you, I apologize, and I guess you're not going to watch the show on Tuesdays, but he's also literally the biggest sports media personality in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm sorry that he turned you off. I don't know what I'll say about that, but he's a good dude. He is a really good dude. And he's a Warriors fan as well. He wants the Warriors to win. He just had a bad prediction. The 38 win prediction was not very astute. I will give you that. And I do agree, Pinoy Reformat, that who writes of the DeAnthony Melton injury, not that serious. And I agree. I echo those same sentiments. You missed the beginning of the show, that the fact that he still finished that game tells me that it's not that serious. Again, he likely woke up yesterday with a swollen, stiff knee, and the team is playing it safe. So he's going to miss the Grizzlies game, but I don't see a long-term prognosis in terms of him missing a lot of games. I'm not worried about that. All right. Here are duos. And again, duos I don't have a graphic for either. So if you're listening to the podcast, it doesn't matter. If you're watching the show on YouTube, I apologize for the lack of graphics. But here are your best and your worst duos. Your top 5, your bottom 5 for duos on the Warriors and net rating. The best duo on the Golden State Warriors, and I've actually said this quite a few times because it sticks out, and it was top 5 in the NBA. I don't know if they're still that high. I did not check that stat out. I apologize. But the number 1 duo on the Golden State Warriors in terms of net rating, the Splash Buddies, Stephen Curry and Buddy Hield. When they are on the court together, they are outscoring the opposition by 68 points, meaning in more simpler terms, Steph, Buddy, plus 68. Number 2, this, I think, will surprise you. The number 2 net rating duo on the Golden State Warriors, Brandon Pajemski and Lindy Waters. Let me repeat that one more time because you did hear that correctly, but I will still repeat myself. Brandon Pajemski and Lindy Waters are a plus 62. Good for second on the Golden State Warriors in terms of net rating leaders for duos. Number 3, this comes as no surprise, Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. They are a plus 60 this year. Number 4, this one may or may not surprise you. It's a little funky. Brandon Pajemski and Kevon Looney. They are a plus 53. And rounding out your top 5, Stephen Curry and Andrew Wiggins with a plus 51. Those are your top 5 net rating duos for the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, Patrick O'Quinn, aka Patty O'Quinn, fine Irish lad. Just repeating Curry and Buddy. Yeah, that is your top duo on the Warriors. And then a couple people saying Steph and Dre. Hell yeah, man. Still going strong. 3rd on the team in net rating. But kind of crazy that number 2 is Pajemski and Lindy Waters. Now, who are the worst duos so far? 11 games in. The Warriors are 9-2 atop the Western Conference. The 5th worst duo, I'll go from the least worst to the worst. The 5th worst duo in terms of net rating on the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga and Gary Payton II, minus 11. And notice how the bad ones are not nearly as bad as how good the good ones are, if that makes sense. So Kuminga and GP2 are the 5th worst duo on the Warriors, minus 11. Not horrible. Number 4, Kyle Anderson and Moses Moody are a minus 15. 3rd worst on the team in terms of net rating, Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton. Probably didn't expect that one. They are a minus 16 together. And then tied for the worst duo on the Golden State Warriors, it's 2 sets. They're both minus 20. On one hand, you have Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, the 2021 draft classmates, both lottery picks. They're currently minus 20 when they're on the court together. And tied with Kuminga and Moody for a minus 20, Steph and Moody. They're also minus 20. So those are your 5 worst duos. Again, Steph and Moody minus 20, Kuminga and Moody minus 20, Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton minus 16, Kyle Anderson and Moses Moody minus 15, and then Jonathan Kuminga and Gary Payton II are your 5th worst duo, minus 11. And again, your best duos, 5th, Steph and Wiggins, plus 51. And it is important to notice that your top 5 is dominating. Your bottom 5, not horrendous. And that's because the Warriors are kicking ass this year. So your 5th best duo, Steph and Wiggins, plus 51. 4th, Pajemski and Kevon Looney, plus 53. 3rd, Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, plus 60. 2nd, Brandon Pajemski and Lindy Waters, plus 62. And the top duo on the Warriors, Stephen Curry and Buddy Hield, with a plus 68. Oh, thank you, Phil. I really do appreciate that. Saying that this new program is better. I can't thank you enough for the love. Jill Espina. Again, we talked about this earlier. Moses Moody, his net rating, it's only 11 games, but Moody's net rating is the worst on this team. But here's the good news. He's worst on the team individually with a plus 6. And with the duos, yeah, there are some that are losing when they're out there together. But, and again, this is where individually, I don't think Moses Moody is bringing the team down. We could evaluate that in another show in terms of what's going on. But I do agree, solemnly crying, writing that Moses Moody on a top 5 for negative net is crazy. It is crazy. It is surprising to me. Gamer FTP talking about tomorrow's Grizzlies game. We're going to preview that at the end of the show, but saying that no one on the Grizzlies defensively can stop Jonathan Kuminga. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Pinoy Reformat bringing up an interesting point that just last year, Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton were teammates. Good point. Although Melton was hurt most of the year, and then Buddy Hield, I think, was traded to the team midway. So And then Donnie Lakey writing that Kuminga's not in any of the best duos. Yeah, I didn't really notice that, but you're right. Yeah, he's not. And then Draymond Green is in one of them. Wiggins is in one of them. I think Kuminga was with someone else in like further down in like plus 40 something, but I only did the top fives. All right. Here are the 5-man lineups. And the 5-man lineups represent reality. The 5-man lineups, we're 11 games in, but it's objective. When you see a net rating for a 5-man lineup, it's a fact. Those 5 literally did just that. You can take that information and go with it. And these are your 5 best and worst. We'll go, excuse me, we'll go with the 5 worst lineups first, and we'll finish up with the best one. So the 5 worst lineups for the Golden State Warriors in terms of net rating. We'll go with the 5th worst first. Stephen Curry, Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green. That looks like an awesome lineup. I endorse that lineup. Yet when they're on the court together, they're outscored by 7 points. Not a big deal. -7 is a small number. And again, this is how good the Warriors have been this year. But that group is the 5th worst in terms of net rating on the team. 4th worst, Kyle Anderson, who we've seen playing the point guard position a lot. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Lindy Waters III, and Draymond Green, a -8. Again, 8's not a big deal, but it's the 4th worst group on the team. 3rd worst on the team, Brandon Pajemski, Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters, Kyle Anderson, and Draymond Green. Those 5 out on the court together are your 3rd worst in terms of net rating. Again, Pajemski, Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters, Kyle Anderson, and Draymond Green. And I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, which is that these lineups are still awesome. I still want to see them, but productivity-wise, not doing great this year so far. Not doing horrible either, though, but just you can't say that it's great if they're losing. Number 2, in terms of the worst net rating 5-man lineups. This is the 2nd worst. Brandon Pajemski, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney. This is your 2nd worst 5-man lineup for the Golden State Warriors. One more time. Brandon Pajemski at the point, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney. When they're on the court together, they have been outscored this season by 11 points. A -11 for them. And the worst 5-man grouping of the Warriors, a -16, which includes Stephen Curry, Moses Moody, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Trace Jackson Davis. And I think that -16 for this group comes from a couple of the games that Moody started. I don't know if you remember those games, the team was having slow starts. And again, this is where Moses Moody, like, I don't blame him for those slow starts, but because he was part of that group of 5 and they had those bad starts for 2-3 games, Moses Moody's net rating tanked and he's getting limited minutes. So if most of his minutes are with that group, his collective net rating for him individually will plummet as a result. But this currently is the worst 5-man lineup on the team. Again, Stephen Curry, Moses Moody, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Trace Jackson Davis. That's your worst. And the fact that the Warriors' worst 5-man lineup has only been outscored through 11 games by 16 points, bueno. Chef A is asking if Steve Kerr pays attention to these numbers. That's a great question. And that was Kenny Atkinson's influence on him. At least from what reports have said, that's Kenny Atkinson is very analytics based and that he was teaching Steve Kerr these numbers. Now, with that said, maybe he's paying attention to these things now, but the Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb year, this was the year they were the reigning champions, 2022, 2023. Steve Kerr either was not looking at him or not paying attention to him. And this was one of the many reasons why that year was the bane of my life, because those Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb minutes were not resulting in positive results. Almost every net rating negative that I was reporting on included those players. They were not winning with those players. I was screaming to the top of my lungs to the audience, and whether or not that message got relayed, who knows? But that season, Steve Kerr was not paying attention and respecting net rating. Whether he did last year, I don't know. But the fact that Clay and Wiggins were your two worst net rating players, they were like by far the worst duo. Those two individually were just awful. And you still saw them getting minutes. So I don't know if Kerr looks at them, but he clearly doesn't always respect them. I hope that answered your question. And this is a great point as well. ATGYY bringing up the Cleveland Cavaliers game where they started that game down 20-2. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you, ATGYY. That right there is probably just that one little sample size probably tanked Moody's net rating across the board. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Wiggins and Clay, ATGYY adding, this was last year, were a negative 72. And that was at the end of the season. When I was reporting on these numbers throughout the year, it was at one point, I remember it being like minus 140. It was terrible. But nonetheless, Kerr kept running with it. So, and Jill Espina saying, how do you know Kerr ain't listening to Kenny A? Again, I brought it up because Kerr is playing guys on his team who the last 2 years were terrible at net rating, both individually and in these 5-man lineups, and Kerr ignored it. That's how I know. Because now who knows? Maybe Kenny Atkinson never actually gave him a speech saying, these are your leaders, like these are the ones who are producing. Maybe that didn't happen. I don't know. Steve Kerr was never specific in terms of the analytics that Kenny Atkinson was teaching him. But there was an attribution out there from a couple years ago, I think. I don't think it was last year where Steve Kerr did admit that Kenny Atkinson is very analytics oriented and that he was teaching Kerr about that. But again, he clearly did not listen because you oftentimes saw players in moments where Kerr went with his favorites, regardless of the productivity. And that's been one of my critiques of his for that exact reason. So, oh my God, Bloomer Wave Vibes letting me know we passed 3,000 subs. Thank you. I'll definitely publish something on social media for that. Thank you to everyone. We're now at 3,000. It took my last show that I was hosting 3 years to hit 14,000. And it took us 4 months to hit 3,000. So I think we're doing good. I think we're on a good clip so far. Thank you. I really do, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate that. That's awesome. Do I have a soundbite for like good news? I have all these clips that make fun of people, but I don't have anything that's like celebratory. I need to change that. Okay, so I don't. All right, my bad. So but thank you to everyone. 3,000 subs. That's huge. Hopefully just the start of big things to come. And Bloomer Wave Vibes, more specifically. Thank you for that. Let me see if there's anything else. Thank you. Thank you as well, FFDC. Thank you. And again, we're just beginning. I mean, this is the very early phase of this program, and that was fantastic news. Thank you for sharing that. Greg Gordon adding that Buddy Hield is a repeat offender in terms of negative net rating. Yeah, to a certain extent, you're right. And I don't know if defense is the reason for that. Did he start any games? I thought he maybe started 1 or 2. I can't remember. Jill Espina adding that Pajemski's on the worst team combo. Yeah, in terms of net rating. A lot of mixed results with Pajemski, and I think the last 2 games have hurt him tremendously. Sal Paradise saying that Kenny Atkinson's doing pretty well in Cleveland. His team's doing pretty well. That's a very stacked, deep team. And whether or not Kenny Atkinson's responsible for a lot of the things that they're doing better this year than last year, maybe. I mean, it's very early. But Darius Garland has shown tremendous growth this year. I mean, he's a much better player than he was a year ago. Donovan Mitchell seems much more happy than he was a year ago. He got the big contract extension. He seems settled. Evan Mobley has shown tremendous growth. In case people forgot, Evan Mobley was in the same draft class as Jonathan Kuminga. And I think Mobley is a year older than Kuminga, but they're both very similar in terms of progression. The difference being that Mobley actually plays consistently, whereas Kuminga is only starting to see that now. But there's a lot of good things going on there. That's a deep team. That's a big team. And yeah, Kenny Atkinson so far is doing damn good. But I don't know if I'm going to sit here and say that he's the reason why. That is a talented team that also did very well last year. But I can't hate on him either. And Pinoy reformat adding that Atkinson's more effective coaching young teams. I'm guessing you're referencing the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, he took one of those teams to the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And all right. Okay, so I did not Jill Espina is asking what about trios. I'll do that next show just because you asked for it. Next time I will do the best trios as well. For today's show, I did net rating individuals, net rating duos, and then 5-man lineups. And I just mentioned the worst 5-man lineups. And why do we now go to the most successful 5-man lineups for the Golden State Warriors? These are the ones that are kicking the most ass. The 5th best lineup for the Golden State Warriors in terms of net rating. Slow-mo, Kyle Anderson at the point. Buddy Hield, who we were just talking about being in all those bad lineups, also on one of the best ones. Lindy Waters, Jonathan Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis. When that 5-sum is out there together, they're a +9. I'll read it to you one more time. Kyle Anderson, who was filling in at point guard for a lot of games there because Podziemski missed some time with a broken nose and that dizziness thing that he was going through. We never got a lot of information on that. But Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters, Jonathan Kuminga, and Trace Jackson Davis are currently your 5th best lineup in terms of net rating. They are a +9. Number 4, Stephen Curry, Gary Payton II, Buddy Hield, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green. Small ball with some physicality out there. That's a +12. So they're doing well. Number 3 with a +20, Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody. See, and again, there's a lot of craziness here. Lindy Waters, Draymond Green, and Trace Jackson Davis. That group together is a +20. One more time. Podziemski, Moses Moody, Lindy Waters III, Draymond Green, and Trace Jackson Davis are a +20. Oh, you know what? Did I do 6? Wait, 1, 2, 3. Oh no, so that's a 3rd best. Okay, sorry about that. Your 2nd best lineup. Sorry, I confused myself. I'm sorry if I confused you as well. Trying to get the ship back on a straight course now. Your 2nd best lineup in terms of net rating: Stephen Curry, Gary Payton II, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, and Kevon Looney. That's a 4-guard lineup. We've seen that a few times this year. I remember it being successful every time it went out there, even though it looked funky, even though it was super small. It's been forcing other teams to go smaller. And I've always said this, that when your team is forcing the other one to adjust, you have such an upper hand. You are winning that game, and you're winning every element, every variable of warfare. Like it is instrumental in terms of keys to success, making the other team adjust to you. This has been a Warriors staple. It's been a part of their identity that when they play this small ball lineup, that other teams are adjusting to them because they have to. And it's been a recipe for success. And this lineup so far this season, again, Stephen Curry, Gary Payton II, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield as your power forward, or maybe Brandon Podziemski is, and then Kevon Looney as your center, a +21. Now, the best lineup, I don't think is going to surprise you. And it's the lineup that we're seeing closing games, winning games against good teams. It's a lineup that I love. Fully endorse this because this is what the team has been finishing with. Stephen Curry, DeAnthony Melton, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green. A +28 on the year. That is your best 5-man lineup in terms of net rating. It makes perfect sense. And that lineup is also 10th in the NBA. And I did do my research on who the actual leaders are in the NBA. Sorry for not having a graphic for this one. I did this last minute. To give you some perspective, whereas that a five-man lineup is, again, 10th best in the NBA, the best on the Warriors. The top 5 lineups in the NBA via net rating are as followed. Number 5, the Lakers have a claim to this one with a lineup of D'Angelo Russell, Dalton Knecht, the rookie, LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, and Jackson Hayes. Notice no Anthony Davis in that lineup, which is fascinating. They are a plus 30 on the year. Only 2 ahead of the lineup that represents the best one for the Warriors. They are a plus 30. That is your 5th best lineup in the entire NBA in terms of net rating. And again, one more time. Number 5, D'Angelo Russell, Dalton Knecht, LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, and Jackson Hayes. Number 4 in the NBA with a plus 38 is courtesy of the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. Together, when they play this season, they're a plus 38. Number 3 is courtesy of the Boston Celtics. The 5-man lineup featuring Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. They are a plus 43. Number 2 on this list is courtesy of our little brothers, about 100 miles northeast, the Sacramento Kings. They have the 2nd best lineup in the entire NBA via net rating. And that's because of De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. They have a plus 45, good for 2nd in the NBA. And before I reveal who the first one is, I want you folks in the chat watching this show live to guess, because I personally would have never guessed this. And I'm curious to know if anyone here, without Googling, because if I suddenly see an answer like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes from now, I know you cheated. Off the top of your head, can you guess which team owns the best 5-man lineup in the entire NBA in terms of outscoring the opponents, in terms of net rating? Because I'm positive you're not going to get this. Sal Paradise says the Suns. Pinoy Format says the Thunder. Mentality is saying Sac. Gamer F2P is saying the Kings have no bench, which is why the starting 5 or that closing 5 is so dominant. FFDC is saying the Pistons. Leo Giancarlo is saying, I have no effing idea. Maybe like another iteration from the Celtics. Lucky Trey is saying the Mavericks. ATGYY saying the Raptors. Leo Giancarlo is guessing that none of you have got it yet. Could you believe that? None of you have got it yet. You still have not guessed correctly which team owns the best 5-man lineup in terms of net rating. All right, I'll stop stringing you along here before I give the actual answer. I'm going to take a drink of water. The correct answer, and again, and Sal Paradise is saying Houston. Greg Gordon is saying, could it be the Warriors with another lineup? Solemnly Crying is saying the Hornets. Pinoy Refab Format is also saying the Rockets as well. ATGYY, you got it right. The San Antonio Spurs own the most dominant 5-man lineup in terms of net rating. It is a 5-man lineup that is comprised of Chris Paul, the Chris Paul who was on the Warriors last year, Harrison Barnes, the Harrison Barnes who was on the 2014-15 title Warriors, Champagny, is that how you pronounce his last name? The rookie, Castle, and Victor Wembanyama. Those 5 lead the NBA. I don't know how the hell this is true, but it is. Those 5 lead the NBA in net rating with a plus 46. Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Champagny. I hardly know anything about that guy, and he's part of this. Castle, the lottery pick from this year's draft, and Wembanyama, they are a plus 46. Yes, Sal Paradise, hard to believe. And Bloomer Way vibes. Simon, I don't know why you're dropping. You both are suddenly bringing up DeAnthony Melton. The injury is not serious as far as it's been reported. Knee sprains are fairly common. Worst case scenario, you might miss a few weeks in a situation like Melton's. But again, the fact that he played through it and finished the game, and the fact that there are no reports of any tears or serious injuries, I'm not super concerned about it. I wouldn't worry. But yeah, one more time. And again, I love that lineup. I think that lineup can win a chip given what you just heard in terms of the best lineups in the NBA. Stephen Curry, DeAnthony Melton, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green. Go win a championship. Real fast. Oh, Andrew Machado, great question, asking when is Quentin Post going to be called up? I have no clue. I don't imagine it's going to be anytime soon. He is very much a project in the eyes of the Golden State Warriors. I don't know if they need him, to be honest. I think they're doing fine right now. And one last stat that I also pulled up is total net rating for the team in terms of how the Warriors are doing offensively, defensively, and net rating as a team. So the Warriors offensively have a rating of 118.9. What that means is that per 100 possessions, which on average is how many possessions a team has in a game. It's not exact, but per 100 possessions, the Golden State Warriors are scoring 118.9 points. That's third in the NBA behind just the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's fantastic. Defensively, the Golden State Warriors are currently fourth in the NBA in defensive rating with a 108.0. What that means is they're giving up 108 points per 100 possessions. Again, fourth in the NBA. The fact that their defense is that strong tells the story of this season, and the depth is a huge reason for that, given how fresh this team routinely is and the length of this team with the wingspans, all right? They're not the tallest team, but they do have a lot of length. And the Warriors, fourth in the NBA in defense behind just the OKC Thunder, the Orlando Magic, and the Houston Rockets. Those are your top three in defense, and the Warriors coming in at fourth. And the last stat I have for you to wrap things up tonight, net rating overall, and they calculate this very simply. It's the difference between your offense and your defensive net rating. And the Warriors net rating wise are currently 10.9, good for fourth in the NBA. 10.9 is a fantastic number. Usually teams that win titles are in double digits in terms of total net rating. And the Warriors at 10.9 are fourth in the NBA behind just the OKC Thunder, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Boston Celtics. So statistically, in terms of net rating, that is what's going on. Early in the season, we're only 11 games in. I guarantee you the next time we do this, and I try to do this a few times throughout the season, we're going to have very different results, but you start to see a clear picture. The fact that the best five-man lineup in the Warriors is the one closing it makes perfect sense. And when things make sense, that's a good thing, folks. That usually means the product is delivering. So, good times. Good times. ATGYY saying you thought we were second, the Warriors, in terms of what, net rating? I think I mentioned that already. It's right below you. It's in the graphic if you're watching this live. The Warriors are fourth in net rating behind the Thunder, the Cavaliers, and the Celtics. And if you're referring to defense, the Magic, the Rockets, surprisingly, and the OKC Thunder are just ahead of them. Did I have that right? Let me check that one more time. Defensively, OKC, Orlando, and Houston are the only teams ahead of the Warriors in defense, which is really surprising considering Cleveland, you would think, would be higher than the Warriors, but they're not. So, and Gamer FTP is saying the Rockets play hard. They're also deep. They're not as deep as the Warriors, but they're deep. I mean, when Cam Whitmore is getting DNPs, you know you've got a good team there. So I'm curious to see what the Rockets do. It wouldn't surprise me if they made a deal for like a Jimmy Butler type. again, given the assets they have and given their identity is not as stable and as defined as the Warriors. Like the Warriors' identity is set. Like they know who they are, which is beautiful. Everyone's focused and everyone's ego has been put aside for the focus of winning. They're on track, but that's not just like the Rockets. I think the Rockets are a good team too, but they're just not at the Warriors level. They're getting there. But anyways, all right. I think that's it. We'll be back at this tomorrow night. The Warriors are playing the Grizzlies tomorrow. Oh, and on that note, a little preview in terms of who the Grizzlies are. I watched the game last night. The Grizzlies were in LA taking on the Lakers, and they led that game most of the way. John Morant was out. I'm going to check right now on his status for tomorrow night's game as well, because I imagine they're going to want to have him play on this team. But one thing that I took away from watching them play the Lakers, it was the first time I watched Zach Edey play an entire game, first through fourth quarters. And that kid, I don't remember. I know Evan Mobley's got some size, but I'm curious to see how the Warriors handle him. I've been waiting to see how the Warriors handle Victor Wembanyama when they play the Spurs. And I imagine Trayce Jackson-Davis will get a lot of minutes. Kevon Looney will get some minutes. So I'm guessing they're going to take that same approach with Memphis when they play Zach Edey out there. You're probably going to see a lot of Trayce Jackson-Davis minutes because that boy he's a big boy. He's like 7'3", I think. I mean, his size is very noticeable out there. And so I'm curious to see how the Warriors adjust to that. And then John Morant, I'm trying to see what his injury status is. I don't even see his name listed right now. Do me a favor, follow me over on Threads at Dog Wild. Follow me on Twitter at Surf Journalist. I will publish this information soon in terms of who's available. It looks like John Morant's out. This was back on November 9th because of a hip issue. He's considered week to week. So it looks like he's not going to play. Brandon Clark, who's coming back after the torn Achilles from 2 years ago, he's listed as questionable against the Warriors. Desmond Bane is also questionable with an oblique injury, and that's going to be a really important one because Desmond Bane is one of their top offensive players. So it looks like the Grizzlies are a little banged up, though. John Morant will not play against the Warriors. So I think that's some good news, although Memphis has shown that sometimes they play better without Ja. They're a big team. So what the Warriors are likely going to see from them is a lineup that includes Scottie Pippen Jr., who is their starting point guard, Marcus Smart, who from what I've seen has declined as a player, but he always plays the Warriors tough. We don't know if Desmond Bane is going to play. We do know Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to play. He is an elite big. But the good news is Draymond Green always finds a way to handle him. We don't know if Brandon Clark is going to play. If he doesn't, Zach Edey will likely get the start. This is a Grizzlies team that also has Santi Aldama, who's a solid player off the bench. They got shooting from Luke Kennard. They got players like John Concher, who can be a pest at times. They got Jake LaRavia, who gets minutes sometimes. They got another really young player in Jay Huff, who I know nothing about. It could be a tight one because the Grizzlies do bring some size to the table, but the fact that they don't have John Morant, the fact that Desmond Bane, even if he does play, he will not be 100%, bodes well for the Golden State Warriors. So I'm feeling good about that. And the line for this before we go, and I'll read the chat one more time after doing this, but the line for the Warriors and the Grizzlies, which is going to be tomorrow night, and as always is the case with our program, immediately following the action, we will be live with a post-game show. I hope the Mike Tyson fight finishes before, because that's going to be streaming on Netflix. I am intrigued by that. And I'm looking at BetOnline's website right now, and I don't see a line for the Warriors and Grizzlies. So that's likely going to be posted tomorrow. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat before we go. Oh, Chef A is going to the game. You all right? So we do know there's at least one fan out of the 18,000 plus who's going to be screaming their ass off. That's your second game this season. Have some fun. That is exciting. And yeah, Brian RT in the chat saying that the Grizzlies play hard without Ja. You're absolutely right. The year that the Warriors and the Grizzlies played each other in the playoffs, I don't know if you folks remember that. Was that the year where early in the season when John Morant was out? I think the Grizzlies were 20-2 without him. It was some ridiculous number. So, So John Morant missing the game in no way guarantees a victory. But I'm feeling good about the Warriors against a much thinner Grizzlies team. I guess that's it. I want to see if there's anything else that I should be addressing here before we go. And it looks like no. All right. We're done. Have a great Thursday night. Have a great Friday night. That's the next time we're going to see each other. We'll be back at this Friday night. Chef A, have fun at the game. That's it. I'm stoked for you. And for everyone else, thank you for joining us. And again, we'll be back at this first thing, right when the Warriors and the Grizzlies conclude. We'll be going live to give you what I hope will be an entertaining program. Thanks again, everyone. And until the next time, bye-bye. Bye-bye.